and welcome back to English Podcast with Asif. I hope and pray that you're all fine and in high spirits. Well, thanks for joining in again. This is the 19th episode, and I'm very excited to share this special episode with you because I'm sharing in this episode my observation, my knowledge, and my experience as a student when I'd go to school, college, and university, and then as a teacher. That is what makes a student extraordinary. That means I'm going to share my knowledge, experience, and observation regarding what makes a student extraordinary. In other simpler words, how can we study better? Dear friends and dear students, this question crops up in the minds of the students who are conscious of studying better. And sometimes it never occurs because they think they are already studying the best, the ideal way, which is an illusion most of the time, dear students and dear friends. Let me tell you that as a student, these things aren't discussed in schools generally. Generally, you won't find this thing being discussed, how to study better, because we are in the race of maybe finishing the syllabus, completing what has been given to us as teachers or as students. We are taught what to study. Remember that. There's a great difference between what to study and how to study. We're taught what to study. We have the syllabus given and all that stuff, but we are not taught how to do it. I put it this way, we are taught, but we are not made to learn things on our own. We require study skills for that. And that's what is the topic for this episode. So please listen to this episode and be interactive. Share your things, share your ideas with me in the comment section. That makes me feel that you are listening to these podcasters and this is the right thing I'm doing for the audience, for the students. And that makes me keep going and making more. Now let me firstly answer another question. That is, what do I mean by studying best? What do I mean by that? If I say how to study best, what do I mean by that? Because many people might have different perspectives about that. Know that I do not mean passing the exam when I say studying best. Because remember, that is a very small part of it, not the whole of it. You study for the entire year, not for just 3-hour exam. If you do study for that only, if you burn midnight oil, toil very hard, study books, maintain notebooks, and write down notes, if you do all that stuff, or maybe memorize some stuff, if you do all that stuff in order to just pass the exam or write the exam for 3 hours or 2 hours, that is the greatest injustice and that is the greatest stupidity. Because that does not make sense. Remember, first thing I mean by studying best is to fall in love with learning. To considering just learning and studying one of the goals and objectives of learning. Because that's going to give you ecstasy and joy of learning. And if you're studying and it does not bring joy in you, it doesn't make you feel good, it doesn't make you feel happy, then studying does not mean anything. Because we as humans hanker after joy and happiness. We want to be happy, we want to be joyful. That's in our nature. But if we are doing an activity for the entire year, for a long time, for a major portion of our life, and that does not bring joy in our life, what good is in that activity? So that's the first purpose or first thing I mean by studying best. If you aren't falling in love with learning, that means you're not a good student. no matter how great you are at writing exams and all that stuff. Number two, I mean by studying best is that you are intellectually sound. You develop intellectually. You have a sound judgment. Because in life, you have to deal with many problems. Maybe in work, maybe at home, maybe at personal level, personal life. You need to develop intellectuality. You need to develop intellectually. You have to have a sound judgment. Number three, I mean by studying best that you are critical thinker. You are good at analysis and you are creative. Because remember, if education does not make you critical, critical means that whatever you hear, whatever you read, you don't accept it right away. You don't embrace it right away. Rather, you weigh it. Rather, you analyze and critically look at it. And then if you feel that it's worth accepting, then you accept it. If it is not right, if it's not right thing to do, then you shun it, then you avoid it. And furthermore, you are creative. Remember, if you as a student are not critical in thinking, analytical in thinking, and if you aren't creative, that means you still are illiterate. Yes, I mean it. You are then an illiterate person. Because there is a wonderful futurist, Alvin Toffler. He has written a shocking book, and he named this book The Future Shock. I recommend you this book if you are interested in reading the predictions, reading about the future predictions. You must read this book. So it is written by Alvin Toffler. He says a wonderful thing. He gives a prediction about the future learners, about the future students. Future student means 21st century, because he was the writer. Probably he was the writer of 20th century. He wrote this book in 20th century, and he is talking about the education system of 21st century. He says, the illiterate, note down this quote, the illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but the illiterate of future will be those who cannot unlearn, relearn, and learn. That's what means being critical, analytical, and being creative, shedding a lot of things and coming up with something new. So, by studying best, I mean that you develop critically, you are good at analysis, and you are creative. One more thing I would like to, there are a few more, around 7 things I'm adding, and if you have few more things you would like to add into this, so you are free to do that. Bombard the comment box with your opinions and with your ideas. Number 4 is that you are competent enough and motivated enough for the field you would like to serve the people. Because if you are studying, you want to be something in life. You maybe want to become a teacher. You maybe want to become a journalist, an artist, a writer, a doctor, an engineer, anything you would like to be. Education should provide you enough competence and enough motivation to do best in the field you want to go in. If you still are unmotivated or demotivated, if you are not competent enough in the particular field you want to be in, you are not really educated, because whatever you do, you are going to make mess out of it, create mess out of it. So education should make you competent and motivated enough. There I have seen, or maybe you might have encountered, many people who have been to good schools, good colleges, good universities, but when they got into practical work, they proved to be failures. Or maybe they were doing good, but they were not motivated enough to go ahead, because some setbacks came, some stumbling blocks came, then they they got demotivated and they gave up on it. So education should provide you enough competence and motivation so that you do best in the field you would like to serve the people in. Number 5, what I mean by studying best, that you are good at decision making. Remember that you have to make decisions, and we can relate to it. We have to make decisions in our personal life, at our homes, in our school, in our college, in the universities, in the working places. And if you are a leader, holding a great position, and you have to make frequent decisions in that particular field, and if you are not equipped with the skill of decision making, you are going to cut a sorry figure. You are going to make a bad impression. That's what it means to cut a sorry figure. An idiom I'm sharing with you. To cut a sorry figure means to make a bad impression. So if you are not equipped with the decision making skills, and if this skill is not taught to you and provided to you by the education you seek in school, college, university, that means you are not really getting what you actually are worth of. So number 6, I would like to add to what I mean by studying best, that you know what to say. Very important it is. You know what to say, how to say, and when to say. You are persuasive and impactful when you talk. That means language skills. And that's the thing we underrate in schools and colleges and universities. We think language subjects aren't important. What we have to focus on is maybe science, okay, mathematics, and that's it. Rest of the subjects which are language related subjects, they are not important. Remember, if you aren't equipped with language skills, no matter how much you have learned, how much you know, it's almost of no use. Because if you don't talk, you don't exist. You might have seen it in your schools and colleges and universities or working places. If you aren't talking about your rights, if you're not expressing yourself, your ideas, you don't exist. Nobody will remember your name. Your teachers won't remember your name because you aren't speaking. You might have observed it. You might have experienced it even. They don't remember your name. Why? Because you have not been speaking, you have not been interactive, you have not been sharing what you know. So language skills are very important. You know what to say, you know how to say, and you know when to say it. You are persuasive, you have known rhetorics, you have known literary skills, and that's what being good educated means. You have what we call in a Muslim tradition, we call it adab. Adab is actually manner of talking. Adab is actually also known as literature. So Muslim education is deeply rooted in adab. So that's what actually is one of the sublime aims of education, that it equips you with words. You can express yourself and you can share your knowledge, ideas through this particular thing. One more thing I mean by studying best is you are able to keep going even in tough times. Very important. And this is the maybe most ignored thing, that you are taught to deal with the tides of life, ups and downs, mirth and dirge, dole and delight. You're able to do that because life is not always bed of roses. Life is tough most of the time, and education teaches you to deal with this toughness with courage, with great ambition. These are the greatest virtues, that you have courage to deal with the problems of life. You have patience to deal with the ups and downs of life. You have patience to deal with the sorrow. You have patience to do that. And that's what is one of the aims of education. If education does not teach you these things, who will and what will? These are the things what I mean by studying the best. There may be many more, and if you would like to add some more things to the list, you can. I would like to give a disclaimer here. What I am going to share, how to study best, may not be specifically giving advice to excel in a particular field in detail. This episode that I'm sharing with you is just a small step towards learning better, learning effectively. I am concluding this episode here only. This is to be continued. In the next episode, next part of it, I'm going to share these tips. How can we become extraordinary student? How can we be better students? This is based on what I have learned as a student, what I have seen, observed as a student, and what I have experienced as a student. And then as a teacher, what I have learned about education. And when I saw the system of education in our society, in our schools and colleges, what I actually think, how can we mend and make it better? So these things I'm going to share in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode with patience and with passion. So thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope that you've learned many things. Inshallah, in the next episode, we are discussing the main thing, that is the tips for studying the best possible manner. I wish you good luck. May God be with you always.